Good morning. I'm Kenyon McDuffie, at-large council member and chair of the council's committee on business and economic development. Today is Thursday, February 22nd, 2024, and we're convening this hearing in room 120 of the John A. Wilson Building. The time is 10:08 a.m., and I'm calling to order this public roundtable. Today, the committee will consider the following measures: PR 25-571, the Washington Convention and Sports Authority Board of Directors, Brian Kenner Confirmation Resolution of 2023, and PR 25-572, the Washington Convention and Sports Authority Board of Directors, Alan Bubis Confirmation Resolution of 2023. As a reminder, witnesses testifying on their own behalf will each have 7 minutes if they need it to provide oral testimony. All participants should mute their microphones if there's anybody online, which I don't think we have for this hearing. We're going to consider both nominations at the same time. We're going to begin with PR 25-571, the resolution for Brian Kenner, which was introduced on December 13, 2023 by Chairman Mendelson at the request of the mayor and referred to the committee on December 19th, 2023. The proposed resolution would confirm the reappointment of Brian Kenner as a public member with experience in economic development of the Washington Convention and Sports Authority Board of Directors for a term to end on May 16th, 2027. Mr. Kenner has broad experience in economic development in both the district and across the region, and in both the public and private sectors. He is currently the Director of External Affairs for Amazon, where he oversees community engagement efforts and economic development policy nationwide. Prior to this role, Mr. Kenner served as the Deputy Mayor for Planning and Economic Development for the District of Columbia under Mayor Bowser. He was a member of the Washington Convention and Sports Authority Board of Directors until his term expired last year. He received a Bachelor of Arts in Biology from the University of Iowa and a Master's in Public Policy from Harvard University. He is a resident of Ward 1. We're also going to consider PR 25-572, the resolution for Mr. Bubis. That was introduced on December 13th, 2023 as well by Chairman Mendelson at the request of the mayor, and also referred to the committee on December 19th, 2023. The resolution will confirm the reappointment of Mr. Bubis as a public member with experience in tourism of the Washington Convention and Sports Authority Board of Directors for a term to end on May 16, 2027. Mr. Bubis has had a long career in the hospitality and restaurant industry through his business, Linens of the Week. Linens of the Week is one of the largest linen supply companies in the country, serving the hospitality and restaurant industry throughout the East Coast. He's also involved in many local philanthropic organizations throughout the district. He is an avid supporter of the Washington area sports teams. He was also a member of the Washington Convention and Sports Authority Board of Directors until his term expired last year. He is a Washington, D.C. native and graduate of Sidwell Friends School. He went on to receive his bachelor's degree in industrial management from Georgia Institute of Technology, and he is a Ward 3 resident. I'm going to call up both of our witnesses at this time. And I'm going to swear you both in before you are seated. You can both raise your right hands. Do you each swear or affirm on the penalty of law that the testimony you're about to provide to the Council of the District of Columbia and the Committee on Business and Economic Development is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you both very much. Good morning to you both. And we got Mr. Kenner's resolution came through first, so we're going to start with you.
Good morning, Chairman McDuffie, members of the Committee on Business and Economic Development. My name is Brian Kenner. I've submitted, I think, my opening statement for the record, so you have that. If it's okay, I'll probably just truncate that a little bit. Just want to start by saying thank you very much, Chairman, for having this hearing. I want to say thank you to the mayor for this renomination. I think, Chairman, you said sort of my background, so I will not go back into that. But to shorten that, I will just say I've been involved in economic development for 25 years in the Washington, D.C. region, the federal level, and here locally. I've really had the opportunity to work with some fantastic advocates for DC's economic vitality, including yourself, on many different issues. And I look forward to being able to do that going forward with Events DC if my nomination is considered. So I just want to say thank you again for having this hearing and look forward to answering any questions you might have.
Thank you for your testimony.
Similar, I had a brief statement, but good morning, Chairman McDuffie and members of the committee. My name is Alan Bubis, and I reside at 3030 K Street Northwest in Ward 2. I've been a long time, as stated, businessman in DC and was president and CEO of Linens a Week, a major linen supplier to the hospitality industry in the district and the metropolitan area, which was headquartered in the district. Our linen plant was operated for many years on Georgia Avenue in Ward 1. Since the sale of the company in 2012, I've been an active business investor in many businesses in the district, as well as serving on boards and involved in numerous youth charity organizations. I've also been a very active supporter of the hospitality industry in the district, as well as all 4 sports teams, which I am very engaged in as a fan and supporter, as well as knowledgeable to the business of sports in DC. One of the great honors of my life was to be nominated to the Board of Events DC in 2015 and have been a very involved board member, serving on numerous committees and engaged in all aspects of Events DC. I'm thrilled to be renominated to serve on the board. If my nomination is approved, I will continue to be totally and enthusiastically involved in Events DC. Thank you again for this opportunity to address the committee.
Thank you for your testimony, Mr. Bubis and Mr. Kenner. I have some questions for you both. Some standard questions, which you both have been asked and answered before. We have on record the responses you provided to the committee before the hearing, which will be a part of the record. We also have the testimony that you provided, although I think we may need yours via email, Mr. Bubis. Actually, before we get into that, I was trying to figure out, you said you're a supporter of all 4 sports teams. Now I'm trying to figure out which ones you're talking about, because I count more than 4. Can you turn your mic on for me?
I guess I'm old, so I forget about DC United. I'm still
Okay.
basketball, hockey, but you're right. It is 5. And if we got into the Castles and a number of other ones,
That's what I was saying. Okay.
yeah,
all right,
so we
all right.
got way more than 4.
So
You're
you're
right.
talking about,
Football, basketball, hockey, and
got it. Okay. All right.
but-
Commanders too.
and Commanders
Okay,
too,
all
but we could say they're certainly not in the district.
All right.
but
All right.
but
All right. Not trying to give you a hard time. I'm just
No,
trying
you're
to see what
100%
talking about,
correct.
Right.
100% correct.
So, and there will be a quiz after this hearing. So let's start off with Mr. Kidder. Are you a district resident? And if confirmed, do you intend to reside in the district for the entirety of your employment?
I am a district resident, and I will confirm I will be a district resident going forward.
Same question for you, Mr. Bubis.
I am a district resident and have every intention of staying in the district.
Okay. Although I think your resolution that the executive sent down has you as a Ward 3 resident. I heard you testify that you
I'm
live
a
in
Ward 2 resident,
Got it.
correct.
Have you been or are you a member of any district government board or commission, Mr. Bubis?
I am not, except for Events DC.
Okay. Mr. Kenner?
Same. I am not just Events DC.
And technically, neither of you are presently members of Events DC because your terms expired last year.
Correct.
Got it. Do you or does any member of your immediate family have any interest, financial or otherwise, that may directly or indirectly pose a conflict of interest for you in the performance of your duties, Mr. Kenner?
I do not.
Mr. Bubis?
I do not.
Mr. Kenner, are you an attorney? And if so, are you a member of any state bar? Are you in good standing?
I'm not an attorney.
Okay.
Neither am I.
Wasn't sure if you found time in between your Amazon job to go to law school,
I
but
have not.
wanted to make sure that was clear on the
I
record.
appreciate that.
Mr. Bubis, do you have any outstanding liability for taxes, fees, or other payments to the district, federal, state, or other local government, either contested or uncontested?
I do not.
Ms. Skinner?
Do not.
The board's enabling legislation for Events DC requires members to possess certain attributes and refrain from certain conduct during their terms. With regards to the statute, Mr. Kenner, if you could answer this question, and I'm going to follow up as I have been doing with Mr. Bubis. DC Code 10-1202.05A3 requires that 6 of the 9 public board members shall have proven expertise in municipal finance, business finance, economic development, construction, sports, entertainment, or tourism. Sure, you just said it on record, but I think my committee staff want me to ask this again. Do you have experience in economic development? If so, in 30 seconds or less, talk about it.
I do have experience in economic development. I used to be the deputy mayor for planning and economic development for the city. Prior to that, I worked at Fannie Mae in the District of Columbia. I've worked at 2 different real estate consulting firms in the District of Columbia working on federal projects and local projects. And in my current work, I continue to do work in the broader DC region, working with all manner of state and local agencies to make sure that economic development projects move forward. So I do have experience.
Okay. And of the items listed in that question, Mr. Bubis, and I'll restate them again: municipal finance, business finance, economic development, construction, sports, entertainment, or tourism expertise. Can you talk about your experience and which categories you would be able to address if once again approved for the board?
Yes, I have extensive experience in business development, having operated a major employer here in the city with almost 100,000 square foot plant, and certainly that was also a supplier to all the not all, but a very good market share of restaurants in the hospitality and hotel industry here in the district. We have a number of employees, and we were very active in having to use all the engines of the district to keep the business going here in the district, as well as I said, I've been very active in sports, more as a fan and supporter, but also just as a pastime, if you will, just really understanding the business of sports and what it means to the District of Columbia.
Great. Appreciate those responses. Let's talk about the role of Events DC's board. I want to give you an opportunity, both of you, to answer what you believe the role of Events DC's board to be, and how you plan to contribute specifically to Events DC's mission as a board member. Sure.
I'll go. So I think that the mission of the board, or sort of how I view the board, is to provide a framework for the organization to ensure that its goals are clear to the staff and to the president and CEO, to be mindful of any risks that are out there for Events DC, which sort of vis-a-vis applies to the District of Columbia as well. And to make sure that we are, as an organization, executing all aspects and maximizing all opportunities that Events DC has. I've had the fortune to be able to work, when I worked for the District of Columbia, to be a board member of Events DC back since 2015, and have had the fortune, since I left district government, to continue to be a private sector appointee to Events DC. So I feel like I've had the opportunity to see many of these aspects of risk and opportunity, and feel as though the board's mission is to make sure that we are executing that to the greatest extent possible, and look forward to continuing to do that in the future.
Okay, Mr. Bubis?
I would concur and agree 100% with what Mr. Kenner said, and I would add a couple other things that I feel are important, including the most one is just being, as a board member and of course a resident, and huge advocacy for everything in DC related to hospitality, conventions, tourism, bringing people to the district, promoting sports in the district, housing, whatever and however we can, to the best economic of the district. As well as I feel as a board member, we do have a very vested interest in financial oversight of a number of areas of Events DC, and making sure that what we do is spent wisely and smartly, and it has the best, if you will, bang for the buck, to make sure that we are using that money for the proper purposes for advocacy to help grow and drive the economy of the district.
Appreciate that response. Ms. Bubis, when approving a member of the board, the council and this committee must consider whether the individual possesses demonstrated integrity, independence, and public credibility, and whether the individual has particular knowledge, training, or experience in government ethics or in public transparency. I want to give you an opportunity, and I'll ask Mr. Kenner next, to speak to your experience around, public transparency, government ethics, independence, integrity, credibility.
It's hard to do that without being an advocate for myself, but
Take a minute and be an advocate for yourself.
But I believe as being born and raised here in the district, and myself and my family have always had in business, sometimes things may not always go your way or agree with something, but have always had the utmost, people have always had the utmost respect for myself, my family, our integrity, being able to do business honestly and ethically in the district, and always doing it the right way. As I said, it's maybe someone may have disagreed, but we always treated our associates and our customers as if they were part of the organization. And
Mr. Kenner, same question?
Yeah, maybe I'll take it in a slightly different tact. As a board member, and I know Mr. Bubis is also supportive of this, we have always complied with all open meeting regulations as it relates to the Events DC board. We also have always advocated for whenever the organization needs to, because of District of Columbia law, come before the council and have anything approved, obviously making sure that those regulations continue to be executed as from an organization's perspective. And, I think that maybe the final thing is, we have seen, I know Mr. Bubis and I have seen over the past 10-ish years or so that we have been involved in Events DC's board. We've also had lots of outreach and interaction with the council, with the mayor, with residents of the District of Columbia, and we will continue to make sure that those are sort of bright line priorities for us as board members.
Thank you for that. Are the board members of NCC required to have ethics training?
I would have to ask Moda. I'm actually not sure about
Okay.
that.
All right, and I'll ask my staff too.
Yeah.
It just occurred to me.
Yeah.
In thinking about that. I want to think about Events DC, its role. We talked about that. You all are well aware of that. You previously served on the board. I think our economy and where we are today is different than where we were 5 years ago, 10 years ago. There are lots going on with sports in the District of Columbia right now, whether you're talking about Nats and some of the challenges there. I know that Events DC has been working on, and I think have worked through in terms of issues with the stadium, scoreboard, et cetera. Concerns around monumental sports, the Wizards, Caps, speculation about the Commanders. It's a lot going on. Where do y'all see Events DC playing a role, if at all, in these types of conversations? So what is Events DC's role as we think about everything that's going on in the District of Columbia today with respect to sports in the District of Columbia? I know it's a big question, but I'd love for you just to take a stab at where, as board members, you all see Events DC supporting the district's local sports economy.
As I said earlier, obviously, I think being a huge advocate for what is best for the district, it's easy to say we want all the teams playing here, but it has to be economically sound and the right thing for the district. We are much more involved in the Nats situation because we do, Events DC does own and operate Nats Park. We do not have any involvement at this point, though we do in the RFK site. We do not have anything economically tied into Cap One Arena. And just to clear the record, anything related to the Nats and money spent on the Nats is not a, if you will, a gift from the district or trying to entice the Nats. It's all driven by the lease. Okay, the lease can be interpreted in many different ways, and over the number of years, and I've been fairly involved in that or very involved, you know, the lease can be interpreted, and there have been disputes about how much we are obligated to pay under the lease and for capital. So that has gone back and forth, and I think has continued to grow and gotten better in our relationship. So again, I do want to clarify that none of these things were necessarily gifts. They were required by the lease there. It remains to be seen how we will be involved in with the RFK site, since we do operate that in our role. And at this point, our role regarding the Wizards and the Capitals has been, I would say, somewhat minimal, because it's just not under our purveyance at this point. But I think an advocate for whatever is best for the district is a very, very important.
Okay. Ms. Kenner, anything?
Yeah, I'll just I totally agree with Mr. Bubis, and I would say from my perspective, advocacy, sponsorship, and investments are the or some ways that Events DC has been involved in sports in general in the District of Columbia. Advocacy from the perspective, as Mr. Bubis said, about wanting to continue to provide opportunities for District of Columbia residents, amenities, with sports and entertainment being sort of the purview of Events DC. Sponsorship, Events DC sponsors, whether it's college football games or rugby matches, or even community grant programs to local youth sports teams and leagues. So Events DC continues to be involved from a sponsorship and support perspective. And then finally, investments. Back in 2016, 17, 18, Events DC made an investment in Ward 8 in the St. Elizabeth's campus to provide a venue, some of the funding for a venue for the Capital City Go-Go, which is the G League team, and the world champion Washington Mystics. And so, you know, thinking about ways that Events DC can continue to be a vehicle for different sports teams and leagues to be located here in the district. I think something else, just final thing I'll say about that is, you know, Events DC, I think, has been very good about being more of an instrument than a negotiator. You know, we leave that to the council, to the mayor,
Sure.
to Congress and other people. We are more the instrument to be executed once the decisions have been made.
Okay.
And I would like to apologize again for leaving out the Mystics in the for another great franchise here in the district, and the
Yeah.
world champions, who the city is very, very proud of, and certainly
No doubt about it.
playing it
I think
at
they
St.
still-
Elizabeth's has been a wonderful experience, I think.
They
for the
still deserve a
district.
parade too, if you ask me.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
They
for the
sure
record.
do.
Speaking of St. Elizabeth's, just any thoughts about how things are going there? Obviously, Events DC is very important to the ESA in that facility. I think you mentioned the Capital City Go-Go in your last response, Mr. Kenner. I was invited by the Combat Sports Commission recently to a boxing match that was there. We gave recognition to someone at that, Mr. Jones, who was the announcer. And it was a wonderful event. I enjoyed it. I'm not sure how frequently there are boxing matches at the ESA. I know there have been a number of them across the border in Prince George's County. I won't mention the name of that facility over there. I know we do great events at the Anthem. I've heard about sort of competition, if you will, maybe that's not a fair phrase, where some events would rather be at the Anthem than at the ESA. I'm just curious if you all have any thoughts on what, if anything more Events DC could do to try to support what's happening at the ESA. I know that Director CEO Gates has really been active and in her support for the events that occur at the ESA. But I just thought it would be a good time, especially with everything happening with Monumental. You mentioned the Mystics. It occurred to me, I wanted to ask the question, see if y'all had any thoughts.
I'll start this one. You know, I think I'd start just framework first for me is important. So even why is there a stadium located on St. Elizabeth's campus? I mean, the purpose of it wasn't just to provide an amenity, especially to immediate Ward 8 residents, and for the city, and located at a metro stop, which is which is sort of an important sort of concept for transit-oriented development here in the district. But it was also to spur other things, and I think you are seeing that on the St. Elizabeth's campus. If you go there when we opened the stadium, and I know you were there when we opened the stadium, there was really no residential, there was no other sort of retail activity. You go there today, there's a parking structure, there's all kinds of people living on there, and we're sort of on the cusp of sort of a new retail sort of pavilion being opened over there. You're seeing businesses locate
Sycamore and Oak.
yeah, with office space, in that area. So you're just seeing a lot more economic activity. I know one of the things we cared about initially was also ensuring that Ward 8 businesses were going to be able to operate in the entertainment and sports arena. And we've seen, lots of those sort of vendor and other opportunities sort of show up. So I just want to start with why did we even think about, doing an investment like that, and what have sort of been the returns that we've seen thus far. I think going forward, I think as a board member, I know that we talk about the entertainment and sports arena in just that area a lot, as an organization, trying to continue to encourage as much activity as possible. You mentioned sort of a combat sports or boxing match there. I've been to a few at the entertainment and sports arena. I think it's a great arena to do that. I've seen esports competitions that are located there as well. And then I know that Director Gates continues to look for additional opportunities, whether it's high school or college basketball championships, which I think there's one coming up in a couple of weeks.
And I love hearing that, by the way.
At the entertainment sports arena.
CAA conference.
CAA.
It's a great event.
And so Georgetown Women's have played there. It's just lots of different opportunities, I think, for there. And we will continue. I can say I will continue to encourage Events DC to be aggressive in making sure that we provide those kinds of opportunities at the entertainment and sports arena. One final thing is that I think we do have a competitive facility. You mentioned the Anthem. Every sports arena has its own competitive advantages, disadvantages. I think that there's a lot of positive attributes to the entertainment and sports arena, and I think it's our job to continue to encourage and double down on those things. Closeness to transit, the size of the venue itself and its flexibility to be able to go from combat sports to esports pretty easily, to me is a compelling argument, and I will continue to be an advocate for that arena and for that facility.
Yeah. This is way off script, but it's relevant. I was at a meeting in Ward 8 last night at Martha's table. Councilmember Trayon White was present, Councilmember Brooke Pinto. The subject of the matter was crime and violence in the District of Columbia. It was hosted by the 7th District Citizens Advisory Council. The commander of 7D was there. It was a all in all, I think, despite what some might say, I thought it was a productive meeting in terms of the ability of the public to, ask questions about bills before the council, to talk about concerns about crime and violence. I also thought it was positive in the level of attendance. It was packed in there, but it was also I think 4, maybe 5 young men were present. I think they play basketball for Tech Prep in the District of Columbia, and I think they have DC States coming up. I asked them whether they were going to make it to DC States. They were excited. Of course, they were confident in what they were going to do. But you mentioned the ESA and high school, college ball. You've got the CAA, which coming up, which is great. And just always looking for more opportunities to engage our youth around sports. I think it's one of the best violence prevention tools we have in the District of Columbia, that I think to a certain extent, the pandemic disrupted in a way that we hadn't gotten back to. I had multiple conversations in the last week about the opportunity that I got growing up in the District of Columbia. Mr. Bubis, you're born and raised here, to play sports, football, basketball. I think it's well known on the record that I sucked in baseball, so I only played one season. But I played it in Boys and Girls Club, right? Basketball at club number 10 on 14th and Clifton, football club number 12 at Saratoga and Brooklyn Manor, baseball at Club Number 9, which used to be Hamilton Junior High is now Friendship High School. I'm sorry, it's now Kip High School on Mount Olivet. The point is, I think we have a lot more opportunities. I know that Events DC has been focused on this. I've had these conversations with Angie Gates. In fact, I've attended, there was a big U.S. Junior Nationals tournament at the Convention Center last summer that she and I attended. And so I know there's work being done, but I just wanted to take the opportunity to highlight those young men for attending that meeting last night. And they were there with their coach, Jimmy Jenkins. But I wanted to also point out that I think there's more we can do and would love if and when you all are confirmed to be back on Events DC's board, that you also are advocating for Events DC to explore more opportunities to support youth sports and the arts and other activities that cover your broad mandate at Events DC. But I wanted to highlight sports because I know those young men were there and they were advocating for more resources, more support, more activities, more programs to keep them engaged and for young folks even younger than them. So I'll give you the chance to respond to that.
If I might add, to reiterate what you're saying, I certainly agree with what Mr. Kenner said earlier. Obviously, the whole purpose of the ESA arena was to drive development and economic development in Ward 8 and on that campus, and to be a benefit for the residents. We are have worked very hard since we've had ESA to drive events to that arena and campus. We've had some difficulties doing it. I can honestly say that it is not it's not a profit center whatsoever. We do not look at profitability of the events. We are not, it certainly has, I would say, cost losing money from a P&L standpoint, but we do not look at revenue or expenses for the events. We are just, at this point, doing everything we can and have a number of people working on constantly driving business and events to that arena.
Ms. Kenner?
Yeah, agree with Mr. Bubis. The only thing I'll add, and I agree with you that the pandemic sort of put a little bit of it was a little bit of an inflection point, and I think it's a good reminder, and thank you. We will absolutely take that back to the board, sort of the importance of using, whether it's the ESA or the fields at RFK, a million other facilities for sort of youth sports. One thing I will point out, I remember attending before the pandemic, there was a esports kind of academy that we had at the Rise Demonstration Center.
Oh, okay.
And the idea was to sort of get kids, young adults even, involved in sort of esports and e-gaming. And, sort of we connected that to an event that we had at the Entertainment and Sports Arena. And so I think it's a good call to action to come back to some of those things, because I think it was a really great example of bringing the community in and using the Entertainment and Sports Arena.
Great.
I might also want to add, when it comes to youth sports, we've talked about the fields at RFK ESA. There is also the Nationals Youth Academy in Ward 7, which Events DC prior to our time, but was obligated but it was a good idea by Major League Baseball.
Mm-hmm.
We did invest $10 million in building that academy and that fields, and those fields are actively used by a number of high schools. Although we're not involved in running them, I think we probably can get maybe back more involved in seeing what events and to drive business. It's a spectacular facility. I believe it's in Ward 7.
Important organizations that utilize the facility. And perhaps you're already doing, I know you all support, I say you all, but Events DC and Ms. Gates, her team, the board have been supportive of organizations that have participated in sports and other activities in the facilities that are in your portfolio and facilities that are not a part of the DC's portfolio.
Right. Just to reiterate what Mr. Kenner said earlier, our grant program is very active. We have taken it. It had gone by the wayside a number of years ago. We started at $50,000 semi-annually. We are now up to $250,000 semi-annually, supporting all type of youth organizations in all types of arts and sports.
Yep.
And that's been very well received. And the amount of applicants we're getting is, we couldn't hardly give away the money. Now we have so many applicants for that as it's been, and we need to continue to grow that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I've been to some of the events where you all have recognize the people who've gotten those awards and have been well attended, and I think it's really great work. I think as the district continues to look at tighter budgets, we have to be mindful of the impact of those grants and those organizations that get that support and what it means to those communities, those individuals and families who are on the receiving end of that sort of support. So I appreciate what Events DC has done in that regard. Last question for you, Ms. Kenner. What's the last event you've been to? Events DC event, sports, otherwise?
Oh, goodness. I recently had in a good way, a personal new addition to my family. And so I've been a little less,
Congratulations.
thank you, a little less active in going out. But I think the last event I went to, I think, was a boxing match
Okay.
at the Entertainment and Sports Arena that I want to say was in either November or December of
Okay.
last year was my last
Okay.
recollection. And it was a great, as I have found, and I think the Combat Sports Commission does a great job of curating those things,
Yeah.
but it's just a great atmosphere, and it was completely packed and the parking facility was full and seemed like people were very much enjoying themselves.
Right,
So it was great.
right. Mr. Bubis.
I'm a big basketball fan, so have been to a number of basketball. Was the CAA tournament last year. We had a Michigan game here last fall, and have been involved in going to a number of basketball events at the ESA Arena, which I really do enjoy going to. Have not been to boxing. I think the last boxing I went to was a Events DC event at DC Armory. But
Oh,
that's
wow.
been a number of years, but
Okay.
which was a great venue and larger. So those were even
And they used to
bigger,
host
but
a lot more events too. at
yes,
the
it
Armory.
was a lot bigger. We
Including-
could attract more.
One of the largest U.S. Junior Nationals event that I learned from the SEC staff was huge at the DC Armory some
Right.
years ago, pre-pandemic.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure. We don't have events at the Armory anymore. I think.
Not many.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't
Yeah.
not
know
many.
exactly, but
Okay.
the
Well,
Armory used to host great events.
And I missed, there was a game at the ESA Connecticut Georgetown women's game
Women's,
that
yeah.
unfortunately I
Yeah.
missed. I had it on the calendar, wasn't able to make it, but
I did not. I was at it. I agree. And that was an exciting and I think a very, very good crowd for that
all
game.
right. Last question for you, Mr. Bubis. You're an alum of Sidwell Friends?
I am.
Okay, so are Eric Singletary and Tamika Dudley going to take their varsity squads respectively, boys and girls, to the DC States Championships this year?
100%. The women are ranked number one again this year, as
Mhm.
they have been and continue to be. I think the men are number 4 this year, a little off. And I will also say, I can't imagine there's any other high school except for maybe not real high, if you will, the basketball schools that have had 2 number 1 NBA draft picks in the last 5 or 6 years,
Yeah.
and Josh Hart and Sadiq Bey from Sidwell.
That's
And
huge.
that's a big thing. And where Sidwell, when I was there many, many, many years ago, we were really good in basketball. I had a big contribution sitting on the bench, so I was very, very helpful to everyone. But we had a lull, but now Sidwell certainly is one of the top, and Jackson Reed also is a spectacular
So
team.
I didn't have to
Doing
prompt you to mention the best basketball team in the District of Columbia, Jackson Reed.
Jackson Reed.
And I will predict today, if Sidwell happens to make it to the DC States, they will likely see Jackson Reed and they will lose this year.
I would think that will be
For
the
sure.
finals. Those are the 2 best teams.
I appreciate it, guys. Anything else you all want to add to the record before we adjourn?
Just thank you.
All right.
Thank you
perfect.
so much, Mr.
Perfect.
Chairman.
All right, thank you both. Let me see if there's any other business I need to mention. Nope, thank you both for your testimony. For the record, anybody who wants to submit written testimony for this roundtable can do so until 5 p.m. today. Submission should be uploaded via the new hearing management system on the council's website at dccouncil.gov. There being no further business before the committee, this marks the end of today's public roundtable. The time is 10:47 a.m. and this roundtable is adjourned.